What's going on, everybody? Bryce Toohey here with StocksToTrade for small cap recap. Relatively uneventful day. There were movers. I just didn't happen to hit one of them that I'll get into in a second here. Then we had RDBX, which was a total chop fest. But before I get too far into these charts, I do want to introduce a guest that is coming on today. But more importantly, not only a guest on the show, but a new moderator in small cap rockets. Jack Daniels, introduce yourself.
Hello,
Tell
how's
the
it
people
going?
a little bit about who you are if they don't know you.
I'm pretty much just like I'm a really big short seller pretty much. It's 90% of my strategy, and the only times I go long is when it was a situation where I would be getting squeezed out of normally. So
I that's honestly
always
probably
going for the
best way
biggest
to long.
momentum.
Yep. And Jack, you're pretty active in the Sykes challenge, correct?
Yeah.
Like the challenge chat. Yeah. So for those of you who might have heard his name before, seen him on Twitter, he's very active in the challenge community, and he's now a moderator with us in Small Cap Rockets to join myself and Matt Monaco. And today, I believe, was your first day in chat, right? We're working on getting him the moderator permissions, but you were in chat today talking. Everyone was chatting with you.
Oh yeah. Pretty
Yeah.
much walking through all my thoughts on Redbox throughout the day.
Yeah, and so without, we'll get right into that chart. Now, of course, let's talk about the SPY real quick. Broke a pretty key level there at like 409. That 409 was a pretty key daily low, all the way down to 405 and now bouncing. Do you watch the overall markets? Like, out of curiosity, do you ever use that as a indicator or a gauge to momentum in small caps?
I only use it when like the volatility indexes are spiking really high. Because typically when the volatility indexes spike really high, that's when everybody's getting super emotional. And when people get emotional, that's when you see the most traders come in to like actually trade.
I like that.
So
Normally,
then they go to small caps.
yeah, exactly. And it's I've seen some pretty wild charts about like just the overall. I think I can't remember if it was a market cap valuation or volatility in small caps. It's like at its lowest since like 2008. It's one of those two stats. I can't remember which one it was, but I mean, it makes sense. We've seen a lot less. I say a lot less runners, but like that's not even. It's just that these multi-day ones have been a bit tougher. I say a lot less because we're coming off of a crazy amount of runners from 2020 and 2021, obviously. But that being said, you were mentioning RDBX Redbox here. So talk to us a little bit about this. I remember that was one of the first things you said in chat this morning was talking about RDBX. So go right ahead and give us how you traded on it and basically what your thoughts were going into today.
Yeah, so Friday, that's actually when I was just starting to trade the stock because it was multi-day runner, it was extended and it was gapping up, and I shorted it and I actually got squeezed out. So as it kept trending throughout the Friday, it became a very high volume breakout day on the intraday or on the daily chart. So that's why I started longing it into the close pretty much. And there was a little bit of a dip, and that's where I accumulated most of my size. So going into today, once it started spiking, I began selling and trimming, and I was up nicely. But then there's just that massive crack in the morning, and I thought to myself, okay, I guess that's it for the show. I mean, it's dead. And I had a couple of shares short into the bounce, and then it squeezed me out. So I'm like, happened again.
So
Same
you were long
exact
this
move
overnight.
as like.
You were long this overnight or over the weekend. Yeah. Okay. Where did you get, out of curiosity, did you get short into this push, or were you already short on Friday?
So that big wick in midday,
Yeah.
where it hit, up in the fives.
520.
I covered my short like 20, 25 minutes before that wick.
Gotcha. Okay.
So I was like, man, this is grinding, and it was just annoying, and
that
I hate
midday
that.
grind, right? That's the most.
It was just terrible.
Yep. It's so brutal. It's very, very, even for a long though, because you're like, you watch it dip, come all the way down. You expect it to be dead. And it's really tough to justify getting back in midday I'm primarily a long trader, and I'm like, okay, well, it's the middle of the day. It's just grinding around, and it's just coming off of like fresh intraday lows. I don't know what to do with this. And then you get that. Did you get short after this at all, or no? After this wick?
No.
No.
After it frustrated me, and if it frustrates me, I stop shorting it. Because if I'm getting frustrated, I know a lot of other people are more frustrated.
100%.
Yeah.
And then you said you started getting long on these on some dips afterwards, right?
Yeah,
So
that's when I was accumulating it because I noticed the volume. I'm like, wow, this is almost traded like 100 million shares today,
and I feel like
and that
that's
was
something
just so.
a lot of people are probably curious about, because you said primarily a short seller, and then you go long when you essentially the short a heavily convicted short fails.
Yeah.
You're a dip buyer though, right? You're primarily a dip buyer on the long side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I guess I classify it more as like following a trend. So I mean, sometimes I'll even buy like a little bit into strength. And I know how many shares I want to buy, and I know where I'll be risking them off of, so I can kind of like build an average around that. It doesn't really sound good, and I mean, it doesn't work for many people, but it helps me just follow the trend.
No, I was gonna say, I mean, really though, dip buying, that's something I'm trying to get better at, because that's really where you're gonna maximize risk reward on the long side. And it's, let's be real, on a short squeeze or potential short squeeze or supernova stock, you're gonna get the best risk reward. You're going to essentially you're buying strength on the daily, but you're buying dips on the intraday. I mean, that's it, in
Yeah.
theory, it's the best. It's pretty tough to effectively do though. And so I got to ask, when you first, kind of got, maybe not first got started, but when you really picked up, were you mainly short only, or were you still longing, back 2020, 2021?
Well, oh yeah, yeah. 2020, I was shorting only, almost
Short.
exclusively.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's when I had to begin like learning more tough lessons again because the market just got so weird. Like offerings created an even bigger supernova. It's just always stuff like that.
Now it's a game of always
So
adapting for sure. And so
yeah,
then when you started longing, what enticed you to dip buying versus like buying momentum, buying breakouts? Because I think that's a great addition, to the room. Is someone Matt and I generally tend to trade more momentum based. We're trading either trend
yeah.
breaks or maybe a high day break, and you're coming more as a dip buyer. And I know you said you do sometimes buy strength too, but what enticed you into dip buying? Is it mainly just because of how you learned to trade on the short side?
Yeah, because stocks will set up these levels and typically it'll go through these levels and just slam
Right.
because that's where like a lot of people come in, they just like chase the market up. But there's like oftentimes shorts coming in, waiting, just smack the order down. Like when Redbox broke through the high a day first, I was long and I was selling a bit into it. I didn't sell nearly as much as I should have, but that was one of the things I was really warning everybody about. I was like, watch in case this like really just slams,
I'm
because
assuming
there's
you're
so much
talking
like
right near.
volume there. Yeah,
Yep.
right now I said if the range gets small and it goes sideways, I would probably ditch it. And I didn't listen to myself, so I was puking them out at the bottom. I mean, dude, I've gotten trapped by this stock so many times. It is a tricky one.
No, I remember watching this
And
run. I think on Thursday it was. Um, and this day here really, really piqued my interest just because of this. It had been forming that base after making those quick little multi-day move there, and I was hoping for just bigger. But like you can almost see how controlled it felt, and I know it's a much lower volume, but then the same story felt in here where they were just trapping everybody. It felt like everybody was getting trapped, in the same today. And it's like I always try to look back at how stocks have traded in the previous days of their runs, and today was no exception. I mean, yeah, there were a couple nice long spots for me personally, but
mm-hmm.
not. I mean, even you get the high day break, if you're chasing that, you're screwed, right? You're buying at 10, and all of a sudden it's down
Yeah,
at 9 2 minutes later. Same thing here. You're buying that 1070 break. We were talking about that before we started recording, right? Like after this walk up happened, a parabolic move just seemed inevitable, and
yeah,
yet it's still slammed back down in the eights.
yep.
Choppy stock for sure.
And like
Uh,
usually when I see stuff like that, it just says to me, give it less attention the next day. I mean, odds are there might be like a really good sympathy play that'll pop up, and that would have a much better chance of losing all of its gains when the momentum finally switches.
a
So,
hundred
I mean,
percent, a hundred
yeah,
percent. I
don't
like that a
bother getting
lot.
trapped.
And so that was your main stock today, right? Really the only thing you
Yeah,
traded. Cool, cool.
yep, pretty much.
Yeah, and then so for me, I did trade RDBX. I got long here in the 990s just for this secondary move. Unfortunately, I did not sell any through this break because again my thesis was we're going parabolic, and I ended up selling partial. Actually, no, you know what I did? I ended up scalping part of my position into like the 1040s right here. just in case of a high day break and then slam. But once we got this wick and then the recovery, I was like, okay, another trap is set in place. And then I got a very fortunate sell here on once this consolidation here. I trade a much smaller time frame, you guys know, and once this consolidation couldn't lead to another push, it just, to me, it seemed the risk of failure just seemed a bit too high, and ended up cutting there in the 990. So what could have been a really nice trade ended up selling for a pretty small win, but it was certainly a choppy one, and again, probably one I'm going to have to avoid on the long side unless something crazy happens that makes it too hard to ignore. But this setup in here would have been perfect for that continuation into like 12 to 15, and if it couldn't do it today, I struggle to believe that it could do it again or do it the next day. I also took a few trades on FRGE. I've been watching and kind of butchering the bigger picture trade idea here. Got a few on this day, and today was the real actual breakout over 21, which I was waiting for. But for those of you guys who follow me on Twitter, that I've been mainly trading the afternoons just because I get chopped up in the volatility in the morning. I haven't had a great success on the long side in the morning, and by the time the afternoon came around, I remember watching it this morning in the 20, this breakout area, and I was like, do I break my rule and trade early and just set a stop on low day, then walk away? And I didn't do it. A little mad about it, but it's okay. I got a couple scalps down here and sold into these pops, and then one more through 26, like 40, and then sold up into the 27s, but nothing, no crazy big move or anything. Again, it was the all-day trend I just did a pretty bad job at because I was waiting for the afternoon. And then probably the most annoying one, Jack and I were just talking about before this, someone had asked me in small cap kind of my thoughts on BTTX, and I haven't seen a lot of, let me check that multi-day chart quick, the daily, so it was a day one gapper. I just haven't seen a lot of these stocks that gap and do nothing all day end up turning into a mass. This reminds me a lot of some of the less I don't even know what word I'm looking for, but this reminds me of like 2020, where you'd get a gapper that just didn't really do anything, and at the end of the day it was like a delayed reaction to a catalyst, and you get this really beautiful push, and I just completely ignored it, and for whatever reason it was on my chart by the time I pulled up my my screens here. And I was like, wow, that was really nice. The entry for me, I mentioned in small cap to whoever asked that question, was like 128, this break here. And there was really nice risk. It was like 11-cent risk, and it ended up going like, over $2. That was a beautiful move. I never would have held for that whole thing. I probably would have been out in this high a day push, because when is the last time you've seen like a real high a day break lead to further follow through? It's been forever since I've seen a day one gapper do that.
Yeah, no, and honestly, even just seeing like the end of day like ramps, that's usually what I call them. It just doesn't happen, man.
I genuinely don't think I've seen this pattern happen this effectively in, I want to say like 3 or 4 months minimum, right? Like these used to be great. Oh, yeah. This used to be fantastic. This was a really, my buddy Dan Irish, this was like one of his favorite patterns, and I just haven't seen it work in a while. And this is, I guess, why I like afternoons, is because you do get, if a stock is strong and holding, there's obviously better odds for follow through. But like this level of follow through, it just at the end of the day alone moved like 80% in the past like hour. So that's good to see that's working again. And I think that's basically it for small cap stocks that either one was watching, trading, or giving thoughts on. But out of curiosity, with this kind of action, let's pull up this daily chart real quick. RDBX came from $1, $2, whatever it was, this first day of the, I guess even back in here, like in the $2, then faded back and came back from 2 all the way now to 11. There's definitely that multi-day move potential, but like, I don't know. I want to hear your thoughts on this. A little tougher to trade. This doesn't feel like a swing trading market to me. Yet I look at this chart and I'm like, wow, that was a beautiful multi-day breakout.
It's like pretty much from the $5 breakout level to 11 right now. So it's $6 of range, $3 off 11 would put it at about $8 a share. So it's right around like mid range. The only way I'd really consider trading it is one, be smaller than I normally would go tomorrow on the short side. And then 2, I would only trade it if there's some scammy gap up gap up and just push out random people. And I mean, as far as I know, this is just as big of a blow off top day as it needs.
Yeah.
I'm not going to trade it mid range.
I mean, the CYN had that pretty scammy gap up this morning, I think. Yeah. Just that.
Oh yeah.
That reminds me of I can't remember the ticker, but this was like a very popular pattern a few months ago, like where you'd get this 1 or 2 day move. Now CYN, of course, was just grinding through that even after the offering. It was really
8 straight green days.
That's what I found no interest in trading it when it just was clearly felt manipulated. But that pattern was just very prevalent a while back. We'd get this this big push and then just dump all day, and that's what CYN ended up doing. But so that's assuming something you're kind of looking for on Redbox tomorrow.
Yeah, it would just be like that, and if not, I'll eat my borrow fee and move on.
Yeah,
I have no interest in or no mindset where I have to kill this short. I have to make a bunch of money on it. It's just not worth it because we've seen how scammy it's been.
100%, and that's I guess one last thing to ask is a short seller. You do pay borrow fees, and for those traders who are a bit newer, it can be tougher. I feel like when you pay all this money for a borrow and you feel like you have to use the shares. Any little mindset, what do you say to get around that? Obviously, you're going to talk about if you pay it and then also lose because you're over trading. But have you ever dealt with that? And if so, what do you say to those newer short sellers who go through that?
Oh yeah, totally. You have to really be conscious of how much money you're spending on fees and stuff because you're going to have commissions, you're going to have the borrow fees, and then a potential loss. So the way I do it is, let's say I have about $500. That's my risk in a trade. And if I'm risking $500, I would expect that I could make anywhere from $1,000 to $2,000. Because I'm not going to get into actual numbers, but if I can make up to $2,000, then I would spend about $100 max on borrows or something. Or another system that I would use is 1% of the market price of the stock. So if it's a $10 stock, 1% would be 10 cents a share, right?
That sounds right.
Yeah, that sounds right.
You're supposed to be really good at math, dude. I can't. I suck at math.
I'm good at math, but I have to think about how to talk.
That's fair. Normally, I just say things and hope it all makes sense. No, that's fantastic though. That's good. I actually never even really thought of it that way. Again, I'm not much of a short seller, but when I went through I've gone through my short selling trials before, and I would just be like, if it's gonna work, I don't care how much I'm paying for the borrow. And I'm like, wow, I paid as much as my risk tolerance for the borrow fee.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I've definitely been there before, and I mean it. And then when it doesn't work out, you just get double whammied, and you're like, okay, well,
but
that's unsustainable.
It's the cost of doing business, right?
Yeah, exactly, and that's why I like to keep it smaller because if I'm only spending $100 on borrows, ideally, the stock just gets to the perfect price that I want to trade at, and then I hit it, and that'll be it'll be extra higher than other short sellers. So I would make even more money than them because I would be shorting into their covers.
Absolutely.
And if I just eat the $100, then I mean, it was less than my risk anyways.
Right. No, I'd assume that's probably part of the key. It's like you're just saying, really make sure you've got that dialed in and you're not overspending on borrows, and you don't feel, I guess if you're not overspending on borrows, you probably feel a lot less tempted to use them too.
Yeah. It's all about being non-needy on the short side.
100%. Jack, anything else you want to say here before I wrap this up? Any big things you want to say or anything on your mind?
No, nothing's really on my mind. I mean, thanks for having me, and let's get going. Let's get trading.
Yeah, for sure, guys. For sure. And guys, before we let Jack go here, if you do want, so Jack is obviously, we've been talking a bit of a short seller. He does long too, but that's, I think, a really awesome addition here in Small Cap Rockets. Again, Matt and I are primarily long bias traders. And if you kind of want some insight on the short side, I think one of the best ways to learn, either side of the, trading, whether you're long bias or short bias, is to also understand why the other side is taking their trades. And kind of it helps one gather an educated opinion on or helps to gain an educated thesis on a stock, right? You're not so biased one way that it has to run, or vice versa. you know, why I might not be long biased or why Jack might not be short biased on a stock too. So if you guys do want to, you know, join us here in Small Cap Rockets, you're more than welcome to sign up with the link below for a trial. Where I think it's either 7 or 14 days, I think, and you'll get to just kind of see how we trade, how Jack trades, and really learn our thought process throughout the day. I mean, we're in there most of the day. We all kind of stagger different times, but Jack was been very active today, and I know a lot of people got a lot of help from him just in his first day here. So Jack, we're super excited to have you on board, man. And like I said, down in the link in the description, there's a link for that trial to check us all out. So like I said, Jack, thank you so much. Oh, can I do? Oh, look at that. I don't even need the chart up.
Oh, side by side.
Ooh, yeah, now we're looking cool. We're almost like in the same room. Thank you so much again for joining me on today. You're more than welcome to come on anytime. I just thought this would be a great way to introduce you to the Small Cap Rockets community.
Oh, yeah. And by the way, don't expect me to be like typing off throughout the day. I have a feeling today was rare just because like I wait for these red box days like religiously. I'm always waiting for these massive liquidity days.
No, 100%. And like that's no, I'm the same way. You know, like if I'm not, I'll be very blunt if there's not a trade out there. That's the there's no reason to be over trading. It's a great time to get screen time, and if you're newer and trying to learn these different patterns and whatnot, it's a great time to study, but it's not always a great time to trade. So I think that's what we're going to be doing really well here if the market stays a little on the choppier side. So. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching. Be sure to hit the like button. Be sure to comment down below if you're excited to have Jack here in Small Cap Rockets, and make sure you subscribe to the channel. I'll see you back here next this Wednesday. Till then, trade safe, trade well, stay disciplined. Later, guys.
See ya.
We hope you guys enjoyed that last video. Thanks so much for watching and being a part of the StocksToTrade community. We wouldn't be here without you guys. Be sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Our goal is to hit 100,000 subscribers by the end of the year, but we can't do it without your help. So if you enjoy what we're putting out and want to hear more, be sure to hit that subscribe button. I'll see you guys in the next video.